Good evening, everyone, and thank you all so much for joining us tonight. This is the next session of the HillVets virtual happy hour series. My name is Jenna. I am the HillVets Director of Programs and Congressional Engagement, and tonight we're going to be talking about HillVets Lead. So thank you all again for joining. We are going to be speaking with three, maybe four, if the last one is able to join, three of our alumni of our past cohort. And I'm super excited about this conversation and super excited to share with all of you what is going on with our HillVets Lead program. And there is our fourth guest. So welcome to everyone. Before we start, we're going to actually take a quick look at a 60-second promo video. So stay tuned, and then we're going to jump right into our conversation.
And I don't know of a more important time in our recent history than right now to have our best people who are committed to leadership, to their country, to doing things for others, righting wrongs, to step forward and offer themselves for leadership to help our country right now.
All right. Well, if that didn't get you hyped up, I don't know what will, because I'm back here literally dancing to myself. So I hope everyone enjoyed that. But thank you all so much again for being here. Like I said, we are joined by four of our LEAD alumni who participated in our most recent cohort of the LEAD program. And for those of you out there who don't know, our LEAD program is a leadership mentorship training program for mid-career level veterans, advocates, military spouses, service members, anyone really looking to kind of build on their leadership skills and really delve into policy and discourse. So we are going to be talking about all the ins and outs of the program, really gaining some perspective for our potential applicants and our audience out there. And to do that, like I said, we have these incredible alumni who are really going to give you an inside look into what the program is really like. And to start, I'm going to let each of them introduce themselves, tell you a little bit about who they are, where they're calling from, because I know a few out there are in different places. And I'm also going to give them a chance to tell you why they applied to the HillVets Lead program. So Carla, I'm going to put you on the spot and you are going to go first. So take it away.
Yay. Hi, all. My name is Carla Langham. I work for Congressman Juan Vargas in California's 51st District. I am calling from San Diego, California. And I looked into HillVets for mentorship, some leadership principles, and just to network. I was doing nothing but Zoom calls during COVID. So it was a great time to meet new people.
Awesome. Thank you. And Mike, you're next on my screen. So why don't you go ahead?
Hey everybody, I'm Mike Kilbane. I was part of the LEAD cohort with everybody that's on the screen. I was a Navy Legislative Fellow for calendar year 2020, and I am now down at the Navy Yard at Naval Sea Systems Command. I joined the LEAD cohort as a reservist, as somebody that was up on the Hill, and then somebody that works for DOD. He just really fit in to that. It was kind of the next of all three of those things. And then being able to get out and see some other people that are outside the DOD enterprise, like Carla and Larry. I mean, folks that aren't in DC, just wanted to make sure that I wasn't getting too much of that inside the Beltway context. So it was a great group of people. I had a blast, and I'm looking forward to talking about it.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike. Larry, you're next on my screen. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Great. Good evening, everyone. I'm Larry Provost. I work for the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs National Cemetery Administration. It's a really, really incredible position. Disclaimer, of course, not representing my department or any of its entities this evening. Also have almost 22 years in the Army, currently in the Army National Guard. As a chaplain candidate now after 20 years enlisted. And I joined the HillVets cohort program because it was really important for me to connect with people that were interested in the veterans world, the veterans space, and interested in doing so in a way that was really collaborative. And that's one of the things I just appreciate the most about the program, was the sense of, there was such a sense of diversity and inclusion at the same time, and everybody just came together, and everybody really had one common goal, and that was how could we best improve the lot for veterans and their families. So I just was really humbled to be a part of this this really incredible group this past year.
Awesome. Thank you, Larry. And last but certainly not least, Kay, go ahead and introduce yourselves. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much. Hi, my name is Kiana K. Harvey, and I'm a U.S. Army veteran and active duty Army spouse. I'm here in the National Capital Region. And as my wonderful alumni, my squad mentioned, we are part of the HillVets Lead Cohort 4. I was a member of the comms team. I am a commissioned and ordained health minister, and I work as a certified health education specialist with several communities to kind of upscale their programs, and especially in the clinical space. And with everything going on with COVID, I am definitely in my element. So I joined, I applied and was chosen to be a part of this awesome cohort. We were new to the area. I've had an interest in politics and the political process for many years, as I've been an advocate for Arthritis Foundation for many years. And I thought this was the perfect time to get in, learn some new things, and meet some great people.
Awesome. Thank you. And once again, thank you all, the four of you, for being here tonight. We really appreciate you offering your insight and experience to a potential audience and potential applicant pool, because Betty and I can talk about HillVets Lead all for so much. And it's really you all who really give perspective into what the program is like. And it really makes the program super special. So we're going to be talking a lot about the different facets of HillVets Lead. There are so many kind of components that really go into the program. You have your guest speakers, you have CapCon, you have your fire team collaboration projects, you have writing, all these different things that really make up the program. And I want to pose this first question to our panelists and ask, with all that in mind, with all the different components that take into the program, what was your biggest takeaway from the program at the end? What was the biggest one thing that you took away from the program and that is going to lead and carry with you for the rest of your career? Mike, you want to start?
Yeah, absolutely. I love that question. The thing that I took away that I really enjoyed the most, that even today at work I was using this skill set, was the HillVets Lead program and the group of speakers that they bring in are just across the spectrum, from the very top strategic leaders of the department, like former Secretary Chuck Hagel, all the way down to current Veterans Affairs committee staffers. And it really allows you to take an issue and view it through multiple contexts to understand which stakeholders are impacted how at every level. So I think, there was tons of great stuff, but that is my number one takeaway, was I'm able to take an issue now and see it through the multiple levels. I forgive the military DoD speak, but the tactical, operational, and strategic. And there's somebody throughout the program that was able to speak at each level. And I really enjoyed that. And I'm still using that skill set today.
Awesome. That's great. Thanks, Mike. Carla, what about you? What was your biggest takeaway?
One of my biggest takeaways, one of the books that we read was really good. It was on, I think it was like the 15 commitments to, that one was very
leadership.
Thank you. It's the longest title, but it was so good for me because it hit on a lot of the emotional aspects that you hit in this job, because there's a lot of very personal things that are happening in people's lives. Since I work in the district office, I work with constituents. So a lot of times, people come to you when they're at the very end of their rope and needing help. So you kind of get fired up, and how do you check that and able to work effectively for them? And kind of like Mike said, looking at things through different lenses in order to do that. But that was good. And then learning the collaboration, how important that is to work together to solve a lot of these issues, was good.
Awesome. Collaboration, as we'll talk about, is super key throughout the program. Kay, what about you? What was your biggest takeaway?
Sure. I have to echo the same as my cohorts. Just getting together with people from different areas in the industry, different experiences, either as a military spouse or veteran or both. There are some of us that wore those dual hats to just really flesh out what's going on in our community and understand the process that we play, the role that we play, and also the reading. It was kind of tough reading 5 or 6 books at one time, but it pushed you. It was a motivating factor. And the 15 commitments I told you guys, a lot of sermons have come out of that book. I know.
I love that.
It was almost like self-help. And also the leadership. We talk a lot about leadership and understanding that your leadership style will change over the years, and that's okay. And so it offered a lot of opportunity for growth. So that was my biggest takeaway, and definitely getting to know everyone as much as we could in a pandemic. So
Yeah.
Definitely. You hit on some great points there, Kay. Thank you. And Larry, what about you? What were your biggest takeaway?
Well, I'd like to say D, all the above, but that's absolutely true. And with that, just to piggyback off everybody else, that sense of collaboration is just absolutely important. Not only for people that have different life experiences, but just different perspectives than your own, so that you're able to see things through a lens that is much different than yours, but to be able to do so in a really respectful, in a way that's very collaborative and very results oriented as well. And if there's something different, I could say just a little bit was maybe it was from one of our speakers, actually the HillVets founder, Justin Brown. And the biggest takeaway I actually had, it was something to relearn, was restructuring my time, how to best structure my time in order to best foster that sense of collaboration amongst other people. It was really interesting to apply a structural model to something that needs to be as flexible as collaboration.
Awesome. Thank you, Larry. And this is really great to hear. I'm listening to each of you talk, and it's so interesting to know that you kind of had similar takeaways, but something each of you individually stood out. And I think that's what's unique about the program, is that it really offers everyone a different kind of experience, and you take really what you get out of it. And so it's really interesting and cool from my perspective to hear that you all took the same things, but there were some things that really stood out in their own way too. So thank you for that. I want to ask, and this is kind of geared towards everyone comes from different backgrounds, different experiences from different places. So I'm curious to hear if you all had any kind of concerns or worries coming into the program, and how were any of those met or changed throughout your actual participation in the program. Carla, maybe you want to start? I love putting everyone on the spot here.
So there were a couple things. One, I don't live in DC, right? And so the blessing and curse of COVID is that I could participate in this, which wasn't normally open to people outside of DC. So there was that hesitation. Working in the DO, you kind of there's always this oh, it's the DC people or the DO people. But at the end of the day, we're all part of this military community, and we all or veteran community, and we all just kind of get along really well. And I'm also a military spouse. So a lot of times it's a military spouse walking into a veteran organization, you just don't know what to expect. So it was welcoming. It was great. And I, like I said, really enjoyed it. So
awesome. Mike, what about you? You're next on my screen. So I feel like that's the best way to go about asking.
Yeah, no, this is great, because I was literally thinking of this answer as the responses to the last question ended, because I think it was a big takeaway for me. And props to you and Betty and Abigail for spending so much time really thinking about who gets to be a part of that cohort, because initially when you think about a nonprofit after work hours fellowship, you're thinking of, oh, it's just going to be these inside the Beltway bandit bros, crush and bruise. And that's kind of what I thought this was going to be. But I was so pleasantly surprised that it was, every service was represented: genders, creeds, colors, backgrounds, different points of life across the country, veterans, spouses, I mean, you name it. And it just made the discussions so much better, because I can tell you, sitting in the same group of, I'm in a couple other cohorts, and there's nothing wrong with those, but they're all, military officers in Washington, D.C., and you kind of get the same answer no matter what. So having Carla with a district office representation from the West Coast, having a chaplain's background, seeing folks that have retired and gone through the veterans transition, just made the discussions and the products and the questions that we had for our speakers so much deeper and so much better and so much more thoughtful. I really just appreciated that.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike. And honestly, typically in normal situations, there are brews, but just not in this one.
That's very fair.
Next time. Larry, you're next on my screen. What about you? What are your thoughts?
Well, it wasn't the worry I had going into the program. It wasn't particular to HillVets, but just being in DC, living just outside the Beltway, but working in the Beltway. To be very real, I was concerned about the political climate, partisanship, and so forth, and how would that reflect in the program. And I was very, very pleased to see that that was not even an issue once within the program. The only time it really came up in the program was when it was something that, again, in the sense of we foster a collaborative environment here. So, and that just was, it was really, really refreshing to see that, people of all different, kinds and backgrounds and so forth were willing to come together, and discuss these issues and do so in a very civil way. And not only that, but work towards solutions as well. For me, that just personally was very, very refreshing, and is one of the biggest takeaways that I would take from the program. And I'm glad that it was done so. I think a lot of other programs in this town would benefit from doing it the way HillVets does it.
Definitely. Thank you for that. And Kay, what about you? Any additional thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. I really, unlike Mike, I didn't think it was going to be like the guys and bros and brews. I thought it was going to be extremely buttoned up and extremely very robotic. And I'm like, I have such a big personality. I don't know if I'll fit in with this crew. Even though I spent 10 years on active duty as a senior non-commissioned officer, I definitely understand the rules of engagement. But living in a civilian space and having to be all things to all people, there's a kind of calmness that I have, and I was afraid, like, okay, I don't know if I'm ready to move into this buttoned up space, but surprisingly, there was room for everyone's personality. And once again, the collaboration and the understanding that we all exercise for the differences that did arise. And even when a political issue came up, the topics were mostly bipartisan. When you think about military and veterans issues, we support those. So there was always robust conversation around our personal experiences, our professional experiences, and we were able to bring our whole selves to the table. So that was really refreshing for me. And I encourage anyone that feels like they may not fit in to bring yourself. Bring yourself. There is so much room for you to be who you are and to learn from others as well.
Yeah, thank you. That's a really great point, Kay. And I think a lot of you all touched on this as well, is really kind of fostering that community, but also understanding everyone's backgrounds and gaining all those new perspectives and really making it a diverse group, but also a diverse group across all boards and all experiences and all political ideals and all of that combined and really forming a collaborative community within your cohort. So thank you all for that. I want to transition to the big kind of elephant in the room of your cohort, which was obviously you were taking part of this experience and going through this program during the middle of a pandemic. If anyone hasn't noticed, that's still happening. And all of your meetings, for the most part, besides CapCon, were virtual. So I want to kind of see what your all thoughts on that was, participating in a virtual environment. What kind of perspective and advice can you offer to those who are considering applying, who again will be taking part more so in a hybrid situation, but still participating mostly virtual? So what was everyone's thoughts on that? What were your kind of takeaways and advice that you can give for virtualness, and just your overall kind of thoughts, I guess, on that? Kay, you want to start? We'll go back to you.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, we're just having too much fun here. Yeah, we sometimes I think I'm like, oh my gosh, I was cheated. I didn't get a chance to kind of see everyone, and I think we'll get to it later. I'll tell you about how I felt when I first saw you in person and saw Betty in person, I was like, girl fan. I was fanning out like, oh my God. So it just feels really good to finally see everyone in person. And, like Carla, she's on the West Coast. So whenever she gets to DC, I can't wait for us to, sit around and meet up at the HillVets house and talk about some things. But I felt cheated a little, but we were not. I mean, we had deep discussions. We had breakout sessions. We had opportunities to go offline. And, when we broke up into our fire teams, that was the best to really kind of hash out the details of the points that we want to bring across and just to get to know each other. For me, I'm a very community-minded person, and I always like to kind of reach out and touch and be around those that I serve with. And during this pandemic experience, it was a challenge. It was very hard, but we made the best of it. And so I tell people, be flexible, and don't. Thank goodness for technology, and for those that know how to use it. But just be open-minded, and again, bring your whole self to the experience.
That's great. Thank you. Carla, what about you? Thoughts on virtual environment?
Yeah, I mean, clearly it would be amazing to be in person, but I got to join this one because it was virtual. So I am a big fan of it. But like everything else, when you're doing virtual, communication is always going to be key. It's really important to stay in touch. And I'm an over communicator, so I'm sure I drove a lot of people crazy. But doing it remote and having you guys support us throughout it. You made yourself available on the Slack channel. And what Kiona said, just being open to new technologies and just being open-minded all together. We're all learning in this, and just, I don't know, it was a good time.
Thank you. Larry, what about you? Thoughts on the virtual environment?
It can be a lot if you're not used to it, and I think most of us were not used to it before COVID. But as time went on, it got easier and easier. Even though you would hear some people at the cohort say, "Man, I'm zoomed out from being at work, but I'm so happy to be here," And even though we're zooming and so forth, so that was really, really good. And to see people from different parts of the country, again, like Carla and so forth, that wouldn't have been possible if this hadn't happened. So as unfortunate as a lot of the events were, in this past year, there were some good things that came out of it that are some good takeaways. So
definitely. Awesome. Thank you. And Mike, any additions to that?
I think, I didn't feel cheated because, I thought it was going to be bros and brews. I did, I am a bro, and I did have my own brews during many of the meetings. So I guess I wasn't lacking in that. It was a seamless transition, really. There were no hiccups like HillVets wanting to use some arcane, unknown telecommuting service, right? It's Zoom and Slack and emails, and everybody in this group that I thought was an over communicator, like Carla said. So we were all interfacing with folks. I mean, at some points it was tough to figure out which channel and method folks were talking on, but we leveled those bubbles pretty quick. And I think, the fact that it is a veterans geared organization, we're all used to just getting the mission done. So, if this was the hand that we were dealt to do it virtually, then gosh darn it, we're going to do it, and we're going to do it the best that we can. We're going to give it, our best shot. And I didn't really see anything that was lacking. I mean, even CapCon went virtually, and I thought that went off pretty much without a hitch. So I think that's a testament to the group and just the can-do attitude, and that is why we're all here and why we got selected.
Yeah.
Definitely. Thank you for that. And that is a great transition to what I want to talk about next. But I also, so thank you for that. I also want to add, and I think that this is really on display right now, is that even though you all were interacting virtually, Betty and I were interacting virtually and all that, you still were able to really form these relationships and these friendships and these kind of connections that I hope will stay with you for the rest of your career. And no matter what, even if you weren't meeting in person, you still were able to do that. And like I said, that's really on display here with kind of your rapport and your, attitudes and friendliness towards each other. And I think that's really great to see that no matter what, you still were making those connections and building those relationships. So that's awesome. All right, so back to the transition. Thank you, Mike. Something that he touched upon was CapCon. So for those of you out there who don't know what CapCon is, it basically is a day-long conference that the LEAD program culminates with. So throughout the program, you are divided into what we call 3 fire teams, which you may have noticed was on everyone's ribbon as their name kind of popped up on the screen. And with your with your fire team, your mini kind of team that you're working on throughout the program, you are developing a issue and a panel to focus on that issue. So you choose an issue or kind of problem or topic of discussion faced within the veteran military community within your panel, or I'm getting all my words confused, within your fire team, you create this panel and event that showcases this topic and this discussion and policy issue. And so CapCon is basically a display of all those panels, its events, speakers, and really, like I said, culminating the program. And the idea is that you're utilizing kind of the leadership skills that you're developing through the program throughout your planning process of CapCon. So it's a really awesome experience. CapCon is one of my favorite parts of HillVets, all of HillVets. And so it was really awesome to see it take place in a virtual hybrid environment this past cohort. But I want to ask each of you what exactly your CapCon experience was like. So what was it like putting your panel together? What was it like collaborating and working with your team? Let's talk a little bit about how each of your experiences were different, especially because some of you were on different fire teams. So I'd love to hear your different perspectives. Larry, you want to start us off?
Sure. It was really exciting. And I think for me, the most exciting part was actually the hardest part of CapCon. And that was deciding who we were going to have as panelists, because there were just so many wonderful people that we could have picked from, that it really was difficult to narrow it down. But once that was narrowed down, the team just went ahead and ran with everything. It was very easy to get people. That was another thing I think is very positive just about HillVets in general. When people are invited, they're very willing, they're ready, willing, and able to come. They want to support America's veterans and their families. So for us, that was a really, really exciting piece of just something that was just absolutely incredible throughout the whole process.
Awesome. Carla, what about you? You were on the veterans fire team. So what was that experience like for you?
It was good. I think it was funny because starting off, we were like, okay, we have these 10 people, right? And then we came to you and Betty, and you were like, okay, how about 4 or 3? And we were like, 8. And you're like, no, 4. So that was funny. We just had big ideas, and not knowing what CapCon looked like or what it should look like or be like, we, just didn't know. And then being able to reach out to different people, and you guys were like, just ask. They're not gonna, ask, see if they'll come speak. And you were right. A lot of people were very interested. It was a little difficult getting congressional people there because I think it was a voting day. But everyone else we asked, they were all for it, wanted to join the conversation and take part. And that was really exciting. And I think seeing something that you create and something you contribute to is huge, right? So.
Awesome. Great. Kay, what were your thoughts on CapCon? What was that experience like for you?
I'm still in that space, CapCon. You say we want to demystify and kind of, calm everyone down, but I'm still excited about CapCon months later. And, you and Betty were extremely helpful in calming us down because we were like on 10, like, So Larry and I were on the comms team, and one strategy that we used, everyone played to their strengths. We had, some of our fire team members are awesome at research and policy, and reaching out and communicating and bringing out, we had awesome panelists. Our panelists were wonderful. And we continued to build relationships with them. So just the element of working to our strengths, working collaboratively, and continuing to build those relationships, to me, that's what CapCon is all about. And I want everyone to continue to have that same experience. We had a ball. We had some rough nights, but we made it happen. We were so dedicated. You know, when you're passionate about a thing, you it's like a baby. You want to nurture it. You want the best for it. You want to make sure that it's taken to the finest school. You want everything for that baby. And I feel like our CapCon, everyone's session was amazing. Let's start there. But CapCon, we really wanted something good for it, and we had something to prove, I think, because we were in a virtual format.
Yeah.
So we worked. I feel like we all are type A, which is great. You know, I love working with people who like to work. That made my day. But I felt like we had something to prove, but in a healthy way. It was healthy. Sure. Yeah, it was amazing. And I can't wait to see what the rest of the new cohort comes up with.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. All right, Mike, you were on the defense team, so offering a new perspective, kind of what was your experience like with your fire team and your CapCon process?
I loved my fire team. I actually they're some of my best friends from this group, JJ and Johnny Rhodes.
Special shout out.
Yeah, you know, I'm all about shouting people out here. I think I don't want to call it a regret, but it's a little bit in the same vein that Kiona was talking about. I wish I would have done something unique to me. I think it's easy to do defense stuff because I'm a DoD employee and I've done the veterans. You know, I'm a currently serving reservist, but looking back on it, I would have wanted to get a little bit more uncomfortable, if you will. And I think that that's something that HillVets really helps with. Is it's a great space to kind of explore that creativity. So, you know, don't think that just because you've got this great expertise in veterans affairs that there isn't a place for you or isn't a spot for you to add value on a comms team. Talking about, you know, veterans communications. I think too, one of the things that I really enjoyed from CapCon was I got to reconnect with a college buddy that's working in this kind of Instagram online podcast space with veterans affairs and veterans issues that I think is really blowing up right now. So being able to be creative about the guests that you and the panelists that you invite, I think is unique to HillVets. A lot of times you see think tanks and, you know, we up on the Hill, when I was a legislative fellow, we would get come to our lunch and learn policy brief. And like, listen, if it's not a former Secretary of Defense or a sitting congressman or senator, I'm not interested because that's like, you know, the name brand thing. Right. But looking at CapCon, how much more I got out of it because we were thinking of creatively outside the box, who can come share a fresh perspective. And CapCon really gave us the vehicle to do that. And that's something that I took that was just awesome.
Awesome. Thank you all for that. I think also what's really special about CapCon is it's so unique, is it really offers this very kind of different platform and this different way of presenting all these issues, and also the manner in which you discuss veterans policy, because veterans policy, for example, there are so many facets to it, but really picking apart the ins and outs of all those different things really make it, again, unique and a very cool event. So thank you all for sharing your experiences. So I want to shine a little light on my fellow women here, Carla and Kiona, and ask you both specifically. And as women, but also you both are military spouses, what was the experience like coming into this community, but also in the veteran space? How maybe did you feel the program really kind of gave you an opportunity to build your voice, or really kind of give you a new outlook on what your experiences can offer to the community? Carla, you want to start?
So how much time do you have? Because I think and this is something that I've been wrestling with a lot lately, is that there aren't a lot of military spouses on the Hill, right? And what I think a lot of people forget is if you look at the veteran holistically, all parts of it, we don't really have a voice in making policy, and often it's forgotten that we wind up being the caretaker to a veteran, or our veteran passes away and we're left trying to navigate this this VA system and DoD system, but yet our voice is never really heard in that space to give information on policy or initiatives. As it stands, and I've been looking really hard, I think I hit Betty and Jenna up looking for military spouses on the Hill. I have found two other people that are military spouses working. One of them is not working in the veteran capacity. She's working on health. And my other colleague is actually here in San Diego working for another congressman. But I think it's really important, and I love that you guys include us because we definitely need our voices heard as well. We're sometimes the first line of defense. We are the first ones to see things and kind of tilt our head and be like, I don't think that's going to work. But we're here, and I really do appreciate that we can come in here and have our voices heard. But yeah.
Awesome, thanks. Kay, what about you? I think you offer a different perspective because you are a veteran yourself, but in addition, you're a military spouse and a woman. So what is that like for you coming into
Absolutely. This? Intersectionality. I stress how important it is to bring your whole self to the experience. People want to hear what we have to say, and I've been in the military community for 20 plus years. And I've seen things change. I've seen things go wrong. I've seen things go great. I've had amazing mentors, but there's a time when a fresh voice needs to emerge. And this offered an opportunity for that to happen. And just learning from the leadership and learning from the speakers and learning from other women veterans, other spouses. Kind of offline talking about things that are specific to our lifestyle that may not be important to everyone else, but it matters to us. And how can we turn this into an issue? Or how can we bring this issue to light? How can we get some traction on that? So it's important. And also the representation of women and military spouses, mil spouses and veterans in a political space. Some people say, well, I don't want to get into politics. I don't, everything we do is political. Our very being is political. And the fact that we can exercise our right to vote and to have a voice in our communities is important. We need to be there. And this type of training is important. So I urge people to seek this program out, ask questions, and go for it. Go for it. You don't necessarily have to run for office or go working on the Hill is great, but you don't even necessarily have to do that. You can do advocacy. You can be a part of a nonprofit organization that supports an issue, but just being boots on the ground. And that's another one of our military terms, boots on the ground. But being there, showing up and having your voice heard is extremely important. And the time is now.
Definitely. Thank you. It's always really refreshing to hear women, but also, their voices and their presence and their ability to really speak up in a community that has been very male driven. And it's important to recognize everyone's perspectives and everyone's experiences. So as we close up, I want to encourage anyone out there who's watching, if you have questions for our panelists, if you have questions for myself that you'd like to ask, feel free to make sure you type them in the comment box and we will get them on our stream as well. So I want to hit on one last thing, and because we're really kind of gearing this discussion for people who are considering applying, potential applicants, and I want to ask the four of you if you could give one piece of advice to a potential applicant based on your experience in the LEAD program, what would it be? I know that's a lot of pressure to answer that question, but just really think about it. Larry, you want to start us off?
No, but I will. I think the competition will probably be that much more this year and with every subsequent year because of the sheer quality of the program. But the best piece of advice I could give with that is do not let it deter you at all. It is just so important that anybody who is interested can apply and should apply. I mean, I didn't think there would necessarily be room for somebody who works with veteran cemeteries, but that perspective was not only looked for, but actually welcomed. So I would encourage everybody who's thinking about applying for the program, absolutely apply. Do not let anything deter you. And you'd be surprised. As far as the time commitment goes, I mean, the time commitment is important. But if it's something that you're passionate about, military veterans and their families, you'd be surprised the time you find for it. Even with everything else going on, if it's something you deeply believe in, you're going to make time for it, and you're going to find that it's time well spent.
Awesome, thank you, Mike. What about you? Any piece of advice you'd offer?
I think apply. Just apply. It's very much a program where you get out of it what you put into it. And I think looking back, I wish I would have put in more because it was such a valuable experience at the end of the day. But don't be concerned or afraid or hesitant about whether or not it's going to be worth your time, because it absolutely will. So put in the application and do it is what I would say.
Awesome. And Kay, what about you? What would you tell someone considering applying?
Definitely do it. Take time with your application. Answer the questions thoughtfully, because this is a developmental experience. So I saw that the questions that I answered in my application, I'm like, wow, this is really happening. I'm really getting out what I said I wanted to get out of the program. I'm really getting out what I said I would put into the program. And as Larry mentioned, you will make time for the things that you want to do. Many of us are bivocational. Some of us were finishing school. Parents, there was a married couple. I mean, we came from everywhere. Come one, come all. And when I tell you, we had some of the most impressive backgrounds of our candidates and of our cohorts. I would like to say, oh, I was intimidated, but I don't think that's a fair notion to push out on people. You should be surrounded by greatness. You should want to be around awesome people. And when I saw the quality and the caliber of people, I'm like, well, I'm right where I need to be. This is perfect. But I learned so much. They were so humane and humble. With all of the greatness, with all of the experiences, with all of the educational backgrounds and the professional backgrounds, it was not a competition. Everyone lended a hand to say, well, I can tell you about this. I'll send you this article. Or if you want to talk to me about this, here's my email. It's really about building a connection. These we are a cohort. We are going to be lifelong friends. So it's important to be among the people that you want to rise with. So apply, take time with your application, and do the work.
Awesome. Thank you, Kay. And Carla, what about you? Anything to add? Any advice?
Yeah, and a little bit along the lines of what Kay was saying. When I was accepted into your program, a mentor and a friend of mine was just like, this is great. Anytime you can do something like this, do it. You build these like lifelong friendships, and you always have someone to lean on. And that's exactly what I got from this program. Was I can know that I can call Maureen or JJ. I'm going to do shout outs while I'm here too. And Jenna or Betty, or I'm like, hey, I applied for this job. Can you, do you know anyone? And it's just been, just apply. If you're interested in this work, you're in the veteran space, military defense space, it's really helpful for you in your future.
Awesome. Thank you. Apply, apply, apply. Yay. So for everyone out there, just a few reminders on the LEAD application. The deadline to submit your application is February 12th. So if you're thinking about getting that in, do so ASAP. We cannot wait to review and look at applications. And we're super excited to really put this next cohort together. Also, for anyone out there who's considering applying, there are a bunch of resources on HillVets.org. So if you have questions, you have concerns, feel free to check out those resources on our website. The application itself can also be found at HillVets.org under our LEAD section. And if you have any questions for anyone on this panel, feel free to reach out on our website as well, or for our HillVets staff. We love to talk about this program. It's an incredible opportunity for anyone looking to kind of get involved in leadership in the veteran space. And like our panelists have said, it is a very unique and opportunistic experience for everyone. So I want to offer a chance, any closing thoughts to our panelists before we head out? Anything maybe I didn't ask you to say or didn't prompt you, or anything you want to, anyone else who wants to give a shout out?
Do alumni get an automatic acceptance into the next cohort if we want to do it again? Jenna.
Oh, now I'm being put on the spot. That is a great question. I'm gonna say yes. I don't know. We'll talk
we
about
all
it
got
later.
asked questions. You had to be put on the spot too. Come on now.
We're all coming back.
You could be a mentor.
I don't know.
Mentor,
Yeah,
right?
you can be a mentor. Yeah.
We're mentor.
Well, I really want to thank the four of you for being here. I had so much fun. I don't think I've laughed this long in so long. And it was so great talking to you all. And I miss LEAD. I can't wait for our next cohort. And it's been so great to catch up and to really share your experiences. So thank you all so much for being here.
Awesome.
And thank you all for watching. We will see you later.
Thanks.
Bye.